How did the Hornets perform without LaMelo Ball and PJ Washington in their final preseason game? We dissect all of that today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube, where we are talking about the final preseason game. No more of these fake ones, Doug. It's real time now, baby. Got one more week until the regular season starts. Unfortunately, no LaMelo Ball. As you saw tonight, what that might look like, you did see a lot of guys get into this game because it was the last time that they would play, possibly because the regular season does start on October 19th. They will be taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Luckily for them, too, it's a Spurs team that is also going to be tanking for Wembanyama. This game might actually have a lot of merit going forward in the final standings. We might just take a look at this one to see the victor sweepstakes, but also it could just be one that the Hornets need to take care of if they really truly think they have a shot at making the play-in, so that might happen as well. But this preseason game, Doug, the last one, got some big guy performances again. Nick Richards, Mark Williams, Bouknight showed out late in this one. Terry and Gordon were very good and got the ball rolling, really relying on them offensively early on too. What were some of the takeaways that you had? Some of the things I mentioned that maybe you point out first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big story in this one is obviously the Hornets are without LaMelo Ball. How would they react to that? What would the offense look like? Would they take a big step back? You're playing a team in Philly who you went 1-3 against last season, and you played them close a couple of times last season, but generally it's a bad matchup for the Hornets. Obviously, Embiid's a problem. Harden looked really good in this game too, but I thought the Melo-less offense, at least in this particular game, didn't look that bad. I mean, I thought they really responded well. Particularly, I liked the little Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward chemistry, a little two-man game, them working the ball to one another, getting penetration. This was a good game for Gordon Hayward. 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Get this, I'm not done, Walker. He also had 3 blocks. It was a block party. I thought it was going to be a block party for Philadelphia. That's typically what happens. The Hornets try to drive on Philly and they get it swatted back in their face. But it was the Hornets doing the swatting. I just stunned you with that. Hornets doing the swatting really crippled you.
I was extremely shook based off of that. What are the chances Gordon Hayward has more than 3 blocks in any game this season? That's got to be the high, right? There's no way he gets 4.
Yeah, no, I think you don't take that. I'm not going to take that bet. But again, I just really like what they did. They really had some good chemistry, and I thought, the starters generally just played really well. Maybe there was one particular starter, and this is going to hurt your feelings. I just didn't think Jalen McDaniels played particularly well in place of PJ Washington. This was his opportunity, and I would say the whole preseason, I don't think that Jalen McDaniels really took a full advantage of the opportunity that he had with PJ Washington sitting on the bench. At best he was quiet. But at worst, he was.
Well, the first game he was the only bright spot, and after that, I don't know if he made a lot of noise. But the first game, that was the one that you look at. And defensively, I still like him and JT Thor out there together. When you start to go to some of the younger wing potential guys, and JT Thor, we can move into him maybe a little bit later, but also played a lot this game. God, he logged 28 minutes. I think that's what I saw as I pull up my box score here. Yeah, 28 minutes for JT Thor. 28, but also 27 for Terry too. Is that something we should talk about a little bit more, considering he's been playing nonstop in these preseason games, especially with LaMelo out? I know you might want to experiment more with him having the basketball in his hands and running the offense through him with Gordon. Yeah, it's a lot of minutes for a veteran in this league.
Yeah, I mean, he had 4 assists in this game. I thought that it would cut into his offense a little bit. I speculated, having that more of that ball handling and facilitating would cut into his offense. I don't think it now he didn't shoot particularly well, 4 of 11, but I still thought he got to his spots He shot a lot of corner threes. That's a shot. And he got to those spots and had open opportunities. They didn't go down. So I think he had the potential to have a big offensive game just like he did in the last one, even without LaMelo. So if they can work that in, a big part of that, Walker, people like to pile on this guy, especially in the YouTube comments, Mason Plumlee, but a big part of any offensive success that they have actually is going to be Mason Plumlee and his passing ability. He had 5 assists in this game, but their ability to get the ball into the paint, whether it's via drive or getting it to Mason, and then Mason feeding it back out into the corner, that it's a sneak thing that they can do to get some offensive movement, and it worked in this one.
4 for 4 from the free throw line too for the old left-handed Mason Plumlee. 6
look, the
rebounds,
problem with Mason is that when he gets the ball in his hands and he puts it on the floor, that's dangerous. Like when he starts to dribble.
Oh, but he loves doing it.
Yeah, I know, and
he loves it.
He had this. There was this one opportunity. I think it was in the third quarter where he got the ball in the elbow, and I'm like, pass it right now. You've got plenty of opportunities to pass it, and instead he chooses violence, going 1-on-1 with Embiid, tries to back him down. Embiid's not going to let that happen. He gets this awkward baby hook off, and it's just like it's such a low percentage opportunity. If he would just stick to the easy stuff on offense and his passing ability, he'd be really effective.
One thing I want to mention before we move on is Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward a little bit more so, right? The two offensive guys you're going to have to lean on while LaMelo is out for however many games we suspect he will be at the beginning of the season, whether it's a couple, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, I don't know. But you're going to miss some games from LaMelo, of course. With Terry being that backup point guard coming in, they're going to run the offense, and he's going to be the guy that brings the ball up the floor. I wonder if a little bit of your worry with his decision-making and pick-and-roll type stuff, I wonder if that could actually be combated with Gordon Hayward and he running some really nice two-man game, because we know Gordon Hayward is a good decision-maker with the ball. We know that that's somebody that can get to his spots very well. Half-court offense would always be benefited from Gordon Hayward being on the floor. We saw it in the first game, right? Just hitting some of those mid-range jumpers. Hit a couple threes in this one. Hit 2 of the 3 that he took. 6 of 10 from the field for Gordon. Yeah, I wonder just how much his numbers go up, especially with LaMelo out, especially with no Miles Bridges. And Terry Rozier and Gordon having that two-man game. I don't know. I wonder how much that's mitigated some of the worries you might have with Terry taking over this type of responsibility.
Well, yeah, I mean, even when he was healthy last season, there were plenty of games where Gordon Hayward would fade into the background because you had Miles Bridges being very aggressive on offense, LaMelo ascending to all-star status, Kelly Oubre at times taking a big offensive load with his shooting, especially early
Jacking him up.
Yeah, I mean, Tsunami Papi was soaking it up. So, Gordon does not have that luxury. He can't do that. And I don't know if he necessarily wanted to do it last season, but it happened. And now he has every opportunity and excuse in the world to showcase his talents. And he's a tough guard. Like, I don't know he makes defenses have to make decisions because he is so good in the mid-range. He can drive it effectively enough where he can then draw some defense and move the basketball away from there. And he's smart with the basketball. Now, he had a few turnovers in this game that he's got to clean up. But generally, he's really effective and he has a lot of tools in his tool belt.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Terry Rozier getting to his spots. He does that well. So does Gordon Hayward, man. It is a nice break glass in case of emergency type thing where you do have two players that can get to their spots well. Now, you don't have LaMelo to kick it out to for a catch and shoot 3, and that hurts. Not having LaMelo hurts all across the board, okay? We're taking our magnifying glass out and looking for some of the positives. But I do like the fact that they have Terry and Gordon who can get to their spots, even Gordon at this age, not doing with athleticism, but a tough shot maker, far from the hoop. So hopefully that can help him out.
It obviously is going to be tough without LaMelo being there especially like Rozier would love to, drive, draw, and then dish to LaMelo for 3-point opportunities. He did do that with Gordon Hayward once in this game, third quarter. One of those open Gordon Hayward threes came because Terry is really good. Like he's really effective at penetrating, and that's the big, the sort of big story I thought from this game is, all right, how would they adjust to not having LaMelo? It wasn't just Terry. It wasn't just Gordon. Every single Charlotte Hornets offensive player, it felt like, was aggressively attacking the rim, touching the paint, and then moving it out when necessary. And I thought, they lost the game because they lost the Summer League portion late in this one and the turnovers, but they did some really good things in this game.
All right, let's continue to talk about this game, get to some of the other storylines coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We're going to give you the numbers to know. Doug has been scribbling in his notebook. You can catch it on everyhornetsboxscore.com, but we're also going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek here on Locked On Hornets in segment 2, but not before we talk about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season, and you can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every single game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and the easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including the MLB, the MMA, boxing, even golf. Head to the betonline.net website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Numbers to know, coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
You are listening to the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Thoughts on the news about Cody Zeller's injury?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, what the doing, dude?
He's just injured, man. It's
okay. It's
Look,
just, he's
injuries
just having to deal
happen.
with an injury.
He didn't want to get injured, okay, David? But
Sorry, guys. I just had someone jump out in front of my vehicle. That was understanding.
only on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Doug's been scribbling. Numbers to know, baby. You were excited about this. You said you have a ton of notes on this one, and we'll get to more takes overall on the preseason in the next episode. But we'll still focus a little more on just Philadelphia tonight. Doug, let's go to the notebook. What kind of numbers you got for us?
How about plus 13? You want to do a little throwback to the show where we used to do box score boogie, where I give a number and you guess what it is? Plus 13.
That was our introduction. We would go to you for the box score boogie on the previous radio station I might have worked at. So, yeah, there you go.
That's true. All right, plus 13.
Those we don't name, apparently, in this business. We don't do that, yeah.
Plus 13. What do you think?
I don't know. What is I have the box score. I don't want to look at it. So what?
All right.
So
well, you won't find
who was it?
Yeah, you won't find it in the box score. This was first half plus minus.
Oh, okay.
Cody Martin.
Makes
leading
sense.
the team in plus minus. He was, when I talked about the aggression in the first segment, a lot of that was coming from Cody Martin, who finally gets to get in one of these preseason games and dust it up. And he looked really, really good. In that first half, he had 8 points, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, but he was just aggressive. Picked James Harden's pocket at one point, took it all the way back. I love this, by the way. I love this no take foul stuff. I mean, it's just opened up the game so much. It's benefiting the Hornets. You know, they've done a little bit better every single game, I thought, getting back in transition, mitigating some of that. But you got to love that, Walker. It's just a no-take foul. Pickpocket, get it on the other end, no foul.
Yeah, I like Cody Martin hitting field goals. And no threes, by the way. Missed the one that he took, but Cody Martin still staying aggressive, as you mentioned. 12 minutes and filling up the box score. So you love to see it from Cody defensively too, right? Like he was the guy that was kind of paying attention to that entry pass in the high post, and then he was able to knock that ball loose, able to get some transition points off of that. Cody just taking it strong to the hoop. It was a 3-on-1 situation, and Cody just decided, you know what, I'm going to be aggressive and take it myself. Yeah, awesome play from Cody. I'm excited about Cody this season. I've mentioned the contract being totally fair. Maybe he can even outperform that if he proves that the three-point shooting wasn't an outlier. Add some more drive to his game, more aggressive, right? And the defense continues to go up even as he gets smarter. So yeah, just nice to see Cody play so well.
Yeah, it feels like the one player that could probably earn a starting spot, via injury. I don't think he's going to supplant, but who knows? Trades happen. If Terry does find his way out of Charlotte via trade, or Gordon, I mean, I think Cody is somebody that Steve Clifford would easily put into the starting lineup if that was necessary. All right, I got some more numbers for you. How about 24-4. That was the margin in the paint in the second quarter for the Charlotte Hornets. A real turning point in this game. They had played Philadelphia essentially close in the first quarter. I think they left the first quarter tied, and then they accumulated a 10-point lead, and a lot of it happening in the paint. Again, they were just dominant there. It's not like they have a bunch of players that can just like back down and do things in the paint, or somebody like Embiid who can just make you step back and guard him, you guard his paint run, and then, pull up from mid-range and knock it down every time. They don't have anybody like that. This was just, effectively getting into transition, but also getting to the paint in the half court too.
Well, also Nick Richards. I mean, what was he? Was he 3 for 3 from the start? Contributing to some of the paint scoring there. And as you mentioned, I know you tweeted this out, guys that you think have gotten better and better every single game. JT Thor was one of them who we mentioned, but also Nick Richards, man. Like Steve Clifford liked him in the offseason. I think it probably took a little while, but 2 games in a row where Nick Richards has shown some positivity.
Well, and it's all about activity and effort. That's the thing. He's cleaning up he's getting second chance points, cleaning up these misses. He's getting down the floor quickly. He makes quick decisions. I mean, to me, that's been the biggest difference between Nick Richards a year ago, 2 years ago to now, is he just makes quicker decisions. And I don't think he's turning the basketball over nearly as much. There's still a few plays where he gets his cookies taken from him, but he's getting better and better. The one thing that I'm going to go back to this. The one thing you do lose with Nick Richards, and why I think it's an interesting decision that Clifford is going to have as the season moves on in terms of pairing Nick Richards with the starters or Mason Plumlee, is you do lose that passing. Like he's just not a passer really at all. Like he's not going to pass out of the post. Once you give it to him, he can kick it back out, but he's not going to find anybody. So you do lose that, but he has played better and better as the preseason has worn on. Like I wouldn't, if you had asked me at the beginning of or right after Summer League, if you had said, hey, man, Nick Richards, if Mason Plumlee gets hurt, what happens? I'm like, disaster, apocalyptic. This is, what are they going to do? Now I'm like, it's not going to be good, but they'll live.
Yeah, I've come to peace with it all. So, I'm willing to see whatever's going to happen at the 5 spot. All right, more numbers, Doug. What you got?
I'll stick in the first. I mean, a lot of cool numbers in the first half. How about 8 blocks for the Charlotte Hornets and Nick Richards? A lot of that was Nick Richards. I mentioned 3 blocks for Gordon Hayward, but Nick Richards also swatting. Though, I'll say this. Nick Richards, I think, is the king of a block that was probably a goaltend that didn't get called.
If you can accumulate them, who cares? And speaking of blocks, by the way, I was at ACC Tip-Off, ACC Media Day for college basketball, and I got to talk to Tony Bennett, not only a championship coach at Virginia, but also a former Charlotte Hornet. I did not realize his career, by the way, until I looked up his basketball reference page. I didn't realize it was basically a little more than 2 seasons. It was 3 years, but basically I think he had like a handful of games in that 3rd season he played for the Hornets. But I wanted to find an outlier stat, just something kind of weird to ask Tony about. And I found that Tony Bennett recorded a single block in his NBA career. Only in 1 game, 1 time did he ever block the shot of the opponent. I could not find what player he blocked, but it was in 1994 against the Golden State Warriors. Hersey Hawkins went for 40 in that game. Eddie Johnson had 24. Latrell Sprewell on the other side had like 30 or something like that, just to give you some names in that matchup. So I asked Tony, is there any way you remember the block? He kind of dodged it. He was like, oh my God, no, I didn't know I had a block. But man, Hornets, what a great time that was. I was like, all right, no, I feel you. I would move on too, but if you don't know the block, you don't know it. It was really cool talking to Tony. 1 block in his career, and now you know some useless information.
There you go. Yeah, it was a fun time. It was the only time for him in the NBA. He only played for the Hornets 3 years.
Yeah, perfect. Any other numbers?
Yeah, I got some more numbers. Let me give you some. This is a bad number. 23 turnovers for the game for the Hornets. Doomed the team, I thought.
Gordon had 4.
Yeah, Gordon had 4. But it was a team effort. A lot of turnovers overall. Sloppy with the basketball. Not a lot of passing. I don't know. I have to look back. I didn't feel like there were a ton of passing turnovers. It was all trying to feed the post and just loose ball kind of situations. And in terms of that, not a lot of I didn't feel like a lot of them were boneheaded. Just a lot of trying to make something happen, and it gets so maybe because I thought about this, I'm like, man, Clifford's not gonna be happy about that. But I think if you look back on it, it was a lot of them trying to make things happen, moving the ball. Look, that's the thing, Clifford was always a hound on the turnovers, right? Wanted to keep them under,
limiting them,
yeah. I mean, keeping them almost like under 13, that would make them happy. But look, if you're gonna say, hey, we want to go faster, going faster is going to result in more turnovers. So I think Clifford's going to have to come off that a little bit.
Well, and I saw Sam Purley put this out there. We've talked about it quite a bit. Having LaMelo Ball on your team is going to make your team a faster basketball team. So it's funny, too. Steve Clifford says this team is built to run. Mm-hmm. Are they without LaMelo? So if LaMelo's not on the floor, you have Gordon Hayward, you have Terry Rozier, and then Kelly Oubre, who's, I guess, Jalen McDaniels. Not nearly as much. It's funny how LaMelo is the cheat code in transition. He's the guy. And even a Miles Bridges helps you play a ton in transition. And so that might have been true in the initial thought process for this season. But being without those two guys, it's just, Kai Jones, sure. I think Mark Williams does run the floor really well. Just not nearly as much when LaMelo doesn't play. So just kind of something that Steve Clifford has preached. But when you have him out of now it's not like he's going to miss a ton of time. But at the beginning of the season, not going to be playing with the kind of pace you want to probably.
Yeah, this was generally a slowly played game. I mean, obviously it was more of a defensive effort overall. Your final score on this one was 99-94. So neither team getting to 100 points. I'm looking on cleaning the glass, and frequency of all transition was 15.8% for Charlotte. That's 35th percentile, so way significantly below average. But they had a positive points per possession on those plays. And not many steals in the game for Charlotte, and that's another thing. You're not going to play fast, not even by virtue of not pushing the pace, but because LaMelo generated a lot of that with his ability to steal the basketball. So you lose that piece, but even off live rebounds, or just right around average in terms of pushing the pace. So it's something they're going to have to focus on for sure. How do they do that without LaMelo, and how long will they be without LaMelo? That's still a big question mark, I think.
Also contributing to the turnovers, just real quickly, Jalen Crutcher played 5 minutes in this one and had 3 turnovers in those 5 minutes. So that contributed a little bit.
How?
Okay, let's finish up the preseason game against Philadelphia coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
I think we finally got what you could call a good game from one player we have been desperate to see said good game from. We'll get to that in just a moment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Right. Hornet, bees, I don't care. You're getting the can. Get away from me, buddy.
Not bees, though. Save the bees, Doug. For the Hornets, actually, I don't want a live hornet in my house.
Honeybees?
For a bee, I'll cut through.
Because I won't do. If you're a carpenter bee, if you're not a threat, talk about. Here we go. Here we go. Go back to our conversation in the second segment.
The
carpenter bee has become such a low threat that I don't care about it anymore. When I'm walking by, a bumblebee, I'm not worried about a bumblebee, so I'm just gonna ignore it. But you talking a honeybee, small, will sting you, will die to sting. They'll die. They will literally kill themselves in order to sting you. That's how passionate they are. So they're getting the can.
There's something here.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
How about the James Bouknight explosion at the end here, Doug? We have been desperate for consecutive good plays from James Bouknight because we had gotten a lot of bad basketball from him. It's funny thinking about Bouknight in games that don't matter, Doug, because we can go back to Summer League last year and all of us think about Davion Mitchell. No matter if he played well in some other ones, we're only going to think about Davion Mitchell locking him up. And I don't even with this nice little showing at the end where he hit a fadeaway 3, had a step back 3. I felt like he was dancing, dribbling the basketball. I didn't quite know what he was doing for a little bit, but he hit a 3 at the end. So it's all good. You get the most amount of points really possible. But I'm going to remember him getting locked up by Aaron Nesmith and having what was just a brutal outing against the Indiana Pacers. But we got here, Doug. At least he ended on something nice to go into the regular season, and that's really all you could ask for, given what we had seen from him previously.
Well, it's like if you go to the bar, go to the club with your buddies, and then there's that one buddy that hangs behind, and he's texting you all night. Yeah, I'm on my way. I'll be there. I'm on my way. And you've had a great time, but things are winding down. They just said last call, and then the guy shows up, but he shows up with all this energy and he's ready to party. And it's like, bro, like we done partied, we done did it.
Dude, take me home.
But look, Steve Clifford's coming back from the bathroom. He might know a spot that's open a little bit later. We don't know. Maybe he's ready to put Bouknight in. Regardless of this performance, because we know that Steve Clifford has been very high on James Bouknight and his not only his potential, but it sounds like Clifford thinks that he can perform now. And we did get a little bit of that in this game. I mean, he had a nice step back three, he had a fadeaway three in the corner that he shot under pressure. I think his final line was 11-3-1. And the problem though, Walker, is that he hasn't done it against like tier 1 or tier 2 talent. We've only seen these. I feel like we've only seen these little bursts against the kind of tier 3 portion of the game.
Oh yeah, you need something more consistent, and you need something from James Bouknight that is against, I don't want to say legitimate competition, but also competition that's going to be there in a real NBA type game. At least James Bouknight ends on a nice note. You don't see him play a ton in this one. I didn't even mean. Wait, did James Bouknight even play in the fourth quarter? I didn't mean to be so late. I think it was in second half that he was doing some of this.
Fourth quarter. No, fourth quarter. He got some run early. Yeah,
okay.
He had that step back three off the pick was right at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
So really, the guy that scored only in the fourth quarter was Mark Williams. So Mark Williams comes in very late in this one, plays 12 minutes, but gets in real late and scores a few points. Has a few baskets. I think that's right.
All 11 of James Bouknight's points were in the fourth quarter.
That's okay. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought.
You're right.
Okay, yeah. So
you talked yourself out of being right. I talked you into being right. No, you're right.
No, I thought that was right. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was right going late. But
which would again in a regular season game would be great. Like we would be sitting here going, "Oh man, James Bouknight scored all 11 of his points in the fourth quarter. What a performance!" But in a preseason game, when Clifford had called off the Dogs and so had Philadelphia, it's like, well, it's not as impressive.
So Bouknight did it and Mark Williams did it. So Mark Williams only plays entering the game at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
That's
so
true.
All of his 12 minutes were at the very end of the game.
But he couldn't help it. But Mark couldn't help but score in the fourth quarter because he wasn't put in until the fourth quarter. That's not his fault.
That's correct. And I thought it looked good again, right? Like just coming in and helping out. Not competition for sure. It's not. It's a little bit late. But also, like, I thought he showed some really nice hands on that pass. I believe it was from Crutcher. That was a tough catch. He leans out to try to help Crutcher get past that screen, and then he rolls. I thought the purpose was there, maybe a little slow, but it's because he tries to reach out in order to give Crutcher some room and had some really nice hands. And you know what I'm noticing from Mark, too, is you might want to see him just become a complete beast and dunk it on people, but he does have some pretty nice finishing skills with a finesse, he's jumping from pretty far out, moving the basketball in the air and then kind of laying it in, which is kind of weird. Yeah. Like I think that shows some adaptability until maybe he can kind of form that into dunking. But yeah, Mark Williams, nice fourth quarter from him, even though he didn't get a whole lot of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if my big takeaway from Mark Williams in this preseason is that he's not Bismack Biyombo. Like I don't think
that's a good thing. No,
that's a really good thing. Like I don't think we're going to be dealing with that level of having to lower our expectations because honestly, after the first couple of preseason games, I was kind of scared about that. I was leaning that way. Like, oh my God, did they draft another Bismack Biyombo type of player that you're just constantly having to deal with the faults offensively, and then defensively you're not getting enough to really compensate for that. That doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, I think there is real potential there, but the Hornets are going to have to wait. Well, they might not wait on it. They might play him a lot more if the season goes sour, but I don't think that he's ready to play on a team that if they do decide to legitimately go after this play-in spot, I don't think he's ready for that. I think we will see him in Greensboro, but I think, and it sounds like from what I'm hearing from Clifford now as we head into the end of this preseason, it sounds like, Walker, that he's working himself back into the good graces of Steve Clifford, because he had worked himself into Steve Clifford's doghouse at the beginning of this preseason, but it seems like he has gotten out of the doghouse. He's free to roam about the backyard.
I talked to John Shire today about Mark Williams. He was one of the guests and had got to ask him really, one thing that we had kind of talked about is just kind of the rise from Mark, right? Didn't play a whole lot his freshman year until the very end, and then the 10 game slate that he had at the very end of that freshman year. Dude was awesome. Played a lot better his whole second season. I thought he was very good in the NCAA tournament. I know North Carolina, people want to talk about his pick and roll defense not being very good. I just thought Mark Williams in the meat of that tournament really improved. And John Shire talked about his ability to learn extremely quickly and that he's really excited about Mark's career. Of course, he's going to say all good things, right? I'm not naive enough to think he was really going to criticize him, but genuinely seemed excited for Mark and seemed like the Hornets made a good pick, at least from John Shire's point of view. Another pick they made, just real quickly, we can end on this if you want to. One of the assists, because of Mark Williams being able to finish, was from Bryce McGowan's. 14 minutes, not a great McGowan's game, not anything there from him. 4 fouls in the 14 minutes that he played. So McGowan's not necessarily ending on a high note, right? Like if you felt better about McGowan's and worse about Bouknight, those two got closer based off what they did at the very end of their preseason.
Yeah, I think McGowan's belongs in this league, and that really is all you can ask for from a second rounder at this point. I mean, to expect him to be, to have ascended to sort of a solid 9th or 8th man in a rotation this early, I think would have been extremely unfair. We've just seen little glimpses that go, oh yeah, like watch out for Bryce like next season. That's going to be really where I put the magnifying glass to him. But yeah, I mean he got bullied by Tobias Harris on that post up and he fouled, and then he followed that up with an offensive foul where he had a swim move on a drive. But he did break a field goal drought that had gotten the Hornets or that had decimated the Hornets' lead. So he did get a bucket in the third quarter. But yeah, just rough game for McGowan's overall. But I'm high on him. I'm high. Look, that's the story of the preseason right now. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But like I'm higher on Bouknight than I was at the beginning of the preseason. I'm higher on Mark Williams. Probably lower on Kai Jones, unfortunately. Higher on McGowan's. Who am I missing? JT Thor. Oh man, Thor. I was like, where's the JT Thor that I saw last season? Well, he's shown up in these past two preseason games. He's looked excellent. Excited to see him become a bigger part of the rotation this season.
Yeah, maybe we can have that conversation in the next episode. Are the Bugs all right? We'll see. It's been a rough offseason, but maybe we can see some of these young Bugs.
I got an answer to that question. I'll save it for the next show. Also, just really quickly, Montrezl Harrell playing for the Philadelphia 76ers now. My guy was extra, and he's already extra, so he was like extra. He was playing with he's an intense player anyway, but he was playing offensively with a little extra intensity, playing his old team. And
I wish the Hornets would have treated his contract situation like Chipotle and treat him like he was guacamole. Just go ahead and pay extra. Like, it's worth it. That's what I would have done. So Montrezl Harrell playing like guacamole out there, and he was just as tasty as he's ever been. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every single day. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes with Locked On NBA. Yes, your daily half-hour update. Everything taking place within the association. We'll give our preseason overall takes tomorrow, coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast.